Well, thank you very much, and welcome once again to Where Are They Now? We know where this guy is because he's a frequent visitor to the Triple Play Sports airways, and Stan Weber. Of course, we've been telling you about Stan for the last hour. In his 35th year in the booth there at Kansas State doing football and basketball. And, of course, we have to throw this in. A native of Goddard, Kansas. So we always got to throw that in there. I just had to look on the map as to where that was. And the captain of the Kansas State team that in '84 led the Wildcats in rushing and all kinds of stuff. And almost, as the legend grows, Stan, almost came to Oklahoma State, right?
Tom, thanks for having me. And I was thinking throughout the Open, at least I know a NFL Hall of Famer because Jimmy Johnson recruited me to Oklahoma State.
Right.
And I can't say I'm great friends with Jimmy Johnson, but I'm the biggest Dallas Cowboy fan in the state of Kansas. I can say that. My youngest son's name is Landry, after Tom Landry. So even my wife was convinced that Staubach's my main man, Roger Staubach, but, I couldn't name my kid Roger or Staubach. So I went with Landry, and my wife accepted that. So our fourth boy is named after the Dallas Cowboys, and great coach. And then Jimmy Johnson recruited me, but I became better friends with Pat Jones. But I was going down the list going, man, Hall of Fame, all of that. I mean, Barry Sanders was right near where I grew up, and the guy who recruited me, George Wallstead, an old Oklahoma State guy, recruited me to go to K-State, and he also recruited Barry Sanders, and then was down on the Oklahoma State staff by the time the latter part of my career when I actually got a chance to start against the Cowboys a couple of times. In 1983 and 1984, George Wallstead was on the other side back home at Oklahoma State. So there are a few ties, but other than that, you and I have known each other for a long, long time.
And I'm so happy for that. And we always tap into you, especially when football and basketball rolls around, because you know the Kansas State side. So without much further ado, let's just jump into this matchup. And I guess I should ask you, how was life, at least for a while, without Skylar Thompson? You've had to do it before. I guess you have to do it again. Yeah,
Skylar Thompson has really grown into a man. We always say when these players leave high school, 17 or 18-year-olds, they're boys, and by the time they leave 21, 22 years old, they're men. Now with a 6-year of eligibility and that freeze COVID year last year, Skylar Thompson's in his 6th year at K-State. He started more games for the Wildcats than any quarterback in K-State history. He has 32 starts. So he is a guy who really understands what needs to be done with the K-State offense. He's been around it for 3 years. He's been a starter at part of 5 seasons for K-State. And so the K-State offense works very well when he's in there. He understands what checks need to be made, what reads, and he also knows where the receivers are that are open quickly and delivers an accurate football. So Skylar Thompson makes K-State a much better football team, and for the second year in a row, he's unavailable right now as K-State's getting to play Big 12 conference play against Oklahoma State. Hopefully he'll be back at some point, but just like last year, they go to Will Howard. Last year, Will Howard was a little babe, true freshman from Pennsylvania, grew up loving Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's why he has a great tie to the old North Dakota State coach and now K-State coach Chris Kleiman. It was a natural fit. Will Howard's a smart player, a big kid who's physical and can run and really understands football for as young as he is. But still, last year with COVID, he had no chance to prepare, and this year he should be better. They also brought in Jaron Lewis, a guy from Columbia, Missouri, who's been on the roster for a while, got his first action in the second quarter. So K-State played 2 quarterbacks in the last game, Tom, and both of them functioned to about the same level, not as good as having Skylar Thompson in there, but they avoided mistakes. They did some good things, and K-State's offense was able to score 35 points in a tough game against Nevada where they were the underdog. So it was a good performance by them, but there's no doubt if Skylar Thompson were playing for K-State, they'd have even a better chance against the Cowboys.
And he had a tremendous record against the state of Oklahoma, Skylar Thompson did. I may be wrong on this, but was it 4-0, 4-1 in his career when you combine Oklahoma and Oklahoma State? So he had the state of Oklahoma's number. But, all right, he's not there, just like last year. Is Howard more comfortable this time around stepping in?
Yeah, he definitely is. Even when he made some mistakes in the previous week, Skylar got hurt in the first quarter. Halfway through the first quarter, he got hurt against Southern Illinois. Mm-hmm. and K-State in the second quarter had everything that could go wrong, and turned over the ball 4 times. Deuce Vaughn, who's only had 1 fumble in his career, fumbled backwards like it was a bowling ball. He went in the middle of the line, and all of a sudden, here comes a ball squirting down, just rolling 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Southern Illinois went and grabbed it inside the 10. And then Will Howard threw a pass that got picked, and the guy goes down the left sideline and houses it for a pick 6. So, a lot of people in the K-State Nation are going, oh, boy, without Skylar Thompson, what the heck's going on? It's interesting that Will Howard, after the game, was able to go to his coaching staff and say, oh, man, I felt so much more comfortable, way more comfortable.
Wow.
I'm ready to play college football much more than I was last year. He started 7 times last year, so he was the K-State quarterback for most of the year. He is better. We'll see what level he can be. How good a quarterback can he be? How good a passer will he be? Will he be able to protect the ball? Those still are all questions, because most of those 7 starts last year we got to use with a grain of salt and say it was a learning experience. He had 1 game or half of a game where he didn't play well. He had a game last week where he played better. But now, it's the big boy stuff, the Big 12 Conference. It's a whole different level of football, and we'll see how he performs. He claims, and the coaches claim, that he has taken great strides and was a better quarterback than what you saw at any time last year if you happen to turn on the Cats.
I would imagine that it was a forgettable moment, and my memory's fuzzy, but Kansas State was driving last year for maybe the go-ahead score. Howard had a nice gain. I think Antwine knocked the ball away into Taylor's hands. He got a candy hop and took it the rest of the way home, and that was the difference in the game. Has he been asked that question much this week? I would imagine somebody did.
Well, you mentioned Oklahoma, and what we should ask him is, hey, do you remember Barry Switzer's wishbone teams? Because the way you accidentally fumbled that or pitched it out to the Oklahoma State defender would have been perfect at getting the ball to Billy Sims on the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, he was running one direction, and all of a sudden Taylor was running the other direction with the football. It went right to him perfectly, and it wasn't even a chance of a Wildcat player getting to the Oklahoma State defender. I mean, it was an easy jog home for, I think, 85 yards. So K-State was in the red zone, and OSU was dancing in the end zone just a few seconds later. So it just happened to be one of those games, and it's a great compliment to Oklahoma State and just the way Mike Gundy football has really played. I mean, just continuing to grind and believe. You go back to last year's game, Oklahoma State was shut out at the half and still found a way to win. If it's the ball bouncing the right direction or someone knocking a fumble away at the very opportune time, whatever it was a war, and OSU found a way to win. And this series, gosh, it's been so close. This will be the 18th time they play since the 1996 season, which started Big 12 conference play. And the series right now is Oklahoma State 9, K-State 8. Mm-hmm. And it seems like the games have been so close, Tom, with one consistent thing that is showing a little bit of change. It used to be the home team would always find a way to win.
Right.
You go think about the 2011 shootout where Colin Klein was introducing himself to the world about how good K-State football was. Remember, K-State won a championship of the Big 12 in 12. Mm-hmm. But in 11, what a great shootout, yet Oklahoma State won. And then K-State would find a way to win, even with Tyreek Hill on the field lighting it up. K-State found a way to win. It changed a little bit because K-State had the upset in 17, and OSU won last year. So maybe we're not just, hey, home team wins anymore, but, man, it's always been close, competitive, and I wouldn't expect it to be anything different this Saturday.
Both teams come in wanting to find, reestablish whatever a passing game. Now, Oklahoma State, for one reason, they have as many as 3, 4, 5 receivers out, and they're trying to do it with a lot of kids who hadn't played. You've got Knowles, for sure. You've got, who I think is great, Brooks, he's got him. You got Deuce Vaughn, who can catch the ball from anywhere on the field. It surprises me, now again, Skylar Thompson's out, so maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but it does surprise me a little bit that the passing numbers at K-State are not as good as maybe what I thought they would be.
Yeah, they've really not used the passing game much. They've tried to control the game. Last week they threw the ball only 13 times. Mm-hmm. They had 399 yards of offense, a ton of rushing yards, but they didn't really go to the passing game. And, Jaron Lewis getting his first action out there, you might understand why they were controlled in that area. Will Howard. Remember, they turned the ball over 4 times and had a pick 6 in the week before. So, this group of coaches really are comfortable in their skin. They've been a part of a national championship run at North Dakota State, and they really don't care if they pass or they run. They'll just do whatever they think is necessary. Interestingly enough, if you go back to last year, K-State threw the ball almost as much as they ran it. So it's not just, when Will Howard's in the game, you don't throw the ball. Last year they did go to the passing game, and they will go more to the passing game, not as much as with Skylar Thompson, don't get me wrong, and they won't be as effective with Skylar out. But they still have that in their repertoire. It's just the way the game's unfolded in the last 3 weeks. In Stanford, they hardly had any plays. Both teams had about 50 plays in the whole game each. Mm-hmm. So the game just floated away, and there weren't a ton of pass attempts, but there weren't a ton of plays. Against Southern Illinois, after they turned it over 4 times and put a backup quarterback in, they're like, let's run the ball against this FCS team. And then against Nevada, they leaned on the run, and it just continued to work. So I don't know when they'll flip the switch and put more of a passing game in there, but there's no doubt last year, Tom, with Will Howard at quarterback, K-State threw the ball a bunch. So we'll see when they do that, when they have to do that, and how that works. It'll be interesting to see. I know my son Landry has worked his way from being a special teams guy and a part-time wide receiver to being that third wide receiver for K-State. So he, along with K-State has about 8 wide receivers that they'll play, and they'd all love to 2 or 3 balls each, But right now, with 13 passes, they would, if they caught every one of them, they'd all get about 1 each, 1.5. So, I know in my own family that K-State has a player and a group of wide receivers that I know pretty well that would love to see the passing game go. But the number one thing, and you know it at Oklahoma State right now, I heard Mike Gundy speak, and I just know how he coaches in his 17th year. I cannot believe it.
Can you believe that?
Wow. I broadcast his games when he was a youngster, but, hey, he just wants to find a way to win. That's what Oklahoma State football is about, and that's absolutely what K-State football is about. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just find a way to win. And I joke about the receivers, but, in fact, they are no problem at all. They're not divas. They like being 3-0, and they don't care how many passes are thrown as long as they have success.
Yeah, and I'm on that train, have been all week long, because, there's different ways to win games. And I know Oklahoma State has been used to ripping and roaring up and down the field, scoring 45, 50 points and running away. But, there's nothing wrong with winning games defensively either. And that leads me to both these teams bring in fierce defenses, especially K-State against the run. You got to think points could be at a premium, but as soon as I say that, somebody's going to score 50 and make me sound like a liar. But on paper, it doesn't seem like points or yards are going to come easy.
Well, I don't know what your listeners think about this, modern football. I think scoring points has been great for entertainment value. I think it's awesome when a team gets behind by 14 in the second quarter or even in the third quarter. You don't even worry about it. You're like, hey, we can come back and win this game. That wasn't true back when Jimmy Johnson was the coach. You get it by 14 points, game over.
Mm-hmm.
24. I like that we're scoring more, but Tom, I'm looking around at the end of last year and then into the early part of this year. Defense has made a comeback, and I like it. I like a little more balance. I really don't want to see a bunch of 45, 42 shootouts. I've done too many Arena Football League games. A lot of fans don't even know what that is. The 50-yard field inside at basketball arenas, NBA arenas. I literally, for 5 years, broadcast during my career arena football around the country. So in arena football, you're supposed to score a touchdown every drive or it's a failure. And we saw that a little bit in football, okay? And I'm not bashing Oklahoma State was one of the teams that could score like that. But defense has made a comeback, and I really like the scores ending in the 20s or mid-30s for the winner, and valuing possessions and field position mattering once in a while and those kind of things. And we're definitely in that mode, and we're in that mode with these two teams. Both teams have not been lining up the scoreboard in early season play, yet they're 3-0, and one of the big reasons why is they have a balanced team. They play special teams well, they play offense well, and they really play defense well. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. K-State's defense has been good. They've been tested by 3 different styles. It really will be a 4th style coming in against Oklahoma State, so they'll have to prove themselves. And the Cowboys, just stuffing Boise State on the road, not allowing them to score in the second half was super impressive. So I think, the lead feature players for each team in Saturday's game is really the defense. Oklahoma State's defense and K-State's defense are the best units on the field.
Who are the players doing the hefty lifting on the defensive side for Kansas State?
Well, Daniel Green wears number 22. How about 22 jerseys being sold at K-State? Deuce Vaughn at running back
Wow.
and Daniel Green at linebacker. How about that? They both wear 22. But he is a player that plays in the middle linebacker position, and he's just done an outstanding job of leading the team. He's been really fast to the football, physical, decisive, hasn't been missing tackles, can blitz if he needs to and be effective. Just played excellent football. Other than that, K-State has a number of players that have done a nice job, and they really rotate these guys. It's a philosophy I've never seen before, but now I've seen for 3 years, and I know there's a commitment from the coaching staff and the players. K-State believes you should play a lot of players. You know why? You want to keep guys fresh. You want to add depth to your roster, so if you have injuries, you don't have to say this player's out and we've dropped off. You want to be fresh during the game, but they also want the team to be a team. They want guys to root for each other. In the old days, Tom, it'd be either you started and I backed up or vice versa, and there's a little tension between us. You know, you'd play 90% of the plays, and I might get in there for a little dib or drab. But if we were going to play 60-40, why wouldn't you and I just grab arms and say, let's go? At practice, you have more engagement. When everyone says, you know, our third-string guys are like, I'm going to play this week. I told you, 8 receivers play for K-State. I mean it legitimately. They're interchangeable. 8 different receivers will come in the game. And they exchange on the defensive side, probably out of 11 positions, there's about literally 20 players that will rotate their way through, Tom. So to look at this guy or that guy and say he stands out really is hard. Daniel Green plays more plays, and he's in the middle of that defense, so you notice him more. I would say he's the best player right now of the group, but they're going to run out approximately 20 players interchangeably, and they're all playing at kind of near the same level. They don't have a lot of weaknesses. They may not be superstars, but they believe and they're fresh. So that's the K-State philosophy. It's not a 2021 thing. It came in 2019 when Chris Kleiman got here from North Dakota State. He told the players, get ready at practice. You're going to play. And it's amazing. The first coach I've ever seen live up to it. They treat it like it's an inter-squad scrimmage at times. I mean, here comes a third-string guy, and you're going like, the game's tied, and it's early in the fourth quarter. This is the time where you only play your best 11. Like, nope, we're going to play all of our guys. We're going to believe in them, and it's a philosophy K-State has implemented and will use. So if you're a fan who really likes to get into what's going on with the opponent, buy a roster chart because K-State's going to have so many guys rotating in on defense. But one easy thing for Oklahoma State fans, if you just want to keep it simple and talk to a non-football fan and they say, well, what should I watch for? Here's the easy thing, Tom. Number 22, okay? Deuce Vaughn on offense and Daniel Green on defense. Both wear 22, and they really are kind of the stars for the Wildcats.
Last thing, what do we make of the fact it's only 3 games old, but I don't see a block anywhere from the special teams at Kansas State?
Yeah, the special teams at K-State have just been solid and have not had those dynamic plays, kickoff return for touchdowns, punt returns for touchdowns, or block punts. Last year, they blocked a punt in each of their first 3 games, including the giant one at OU to turn a 21-point deficit into a momentum changer, and K-State actually won that game at OU last year with the Sooners ranked number 3 in the country. So it has not happened yet. There haven't been a ton of special teams plays so far. It seems like I told you, Stanford tried to run the clock, K-State tried to run the clock. Southern Illinois ran the ball a lot to run the clock, and so did K-State. So we haven't had these 85, 90 play games with a lot of kicking game chances. K-State's hardly had a kickoff return chance. Either Stanford kicked one out of bounds, just straight out of bounds, and then an onside kick. Literally no regular kickoff. So the chances, Tom, have not been normal. It's really like having 1 game's worth of special teams play during 3 games. So maybe K-State will pop, but that has not been part of their winning streak this year. at all, unlike last year and many years before that.
But the potential is there, and there's no question about that. And I think both teams would like to see something happen in special teams. Before we let you go, just give us a quick rundown. How's the Weber family doing these days?
Well, doing very well. My youngest son is in his 5th year, and he's a senior on the K-State football team, so he wears number 12. You'll see him on special teams and as a wide receiver for K-State. So we're about ready to cycle through all the K-State athletes. My daughter graduated 2 years ago. She played volleyball for the Cats. My son Stanton played 5 years of football for K-State, was a captain his senior year, was good at special teams. And then Bill Snyder, after he had his CPA and was working in Kansas City as a boring accountant, got a call 6 months into his work life and said, I don't know if you're interested in coaching, but we got a spot for you. So he went back, coached under Bill Snyder, and then stayed on with Chris Kleiman for 2 years. And for the first time ever, he's left the nest. Shane Beamer, the old special teams coach at Oklahoma last year, became the head coach at South Carolina. And they talked my son Stanton into learning about a new system, a new conference, a new part of the country. So it seems weird that Stanton's not on the sideline with my son Landry, and we're not all at the K-State game like we normally have been. Yep, I have another game to watch. So South Carolina football is something I'm monitoring because that's where my son is.
Yeah, the nest gets empty from time to time. As you find
exactly. I'm getting old.
Oh, no, well, you still keep that youthful look, which I was telling you before, which is good. Hey, Stan,
I want to be like Mike Gundy when I grow up.
Hey, Gundy never looks old, does he?
Day.
He looks young. He looks young all the time.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't wait to see you guys get down here, you and Wyatt and the fellas, Maddie. We like visiting when you guys get in here, so we'll do some more of that on Saturday. But I appreciate your time and a great rundown of the Cats.
Thanks for having me, Tom. It's always great to talk to the Oklahoma State fans.
All right, buddy. I'll see you on Saturday.
Take care.
Thank you. That is Stan Weber right there, one of the dear friends I have in the business for sure. Known him for a long, long time, and he does a whale of a job now, not only in football but for basketball as well, for the Kansas State broadcast crew. He does. He and Wyatt Thompson and Matty Walters. They're one of the best groups that you can find in the league.